All right. Hello. Tara Preston here. This is our last live transmission called Become the Channel. Become the Channel. And this felt like an important piece to touch into. It's been a huge part of my journey and a huge part of how I support my private clients and really any transformation that you go through in my containers is the journey of stepping more fully into your embodiment. Is the journey of stepping more fully into your embodiment. And this word embodiment gets thrown around a lot, right? So it's always important to kind of run it through our own filter. What does embodiment mean to you? And to me, it means the essence dropping more fully, descending more fully into the vessels that we were born into. Right? And so for the feminine, right, if you inhabit a feminine vessel, right, there's a particular kind of trauma, right, when we speak about the feminine vessel and this journey of descending more fully into our bodies, right, so that we can take up space in the world with the truth of who we are and who we feel called to be, with the uniqueness of our medicine, where we become this beautiful bridge between our divine power and our primal power, right? And that's a journey. The internal journey of stepping fully into our sovereignty, right? Where we're stepping and untangling ourselves from the codependent patterns that often keep us entangled in relationship dynamics that don't serve the free, clear, powerful expression of who we were born to be, right? These are all kind of these aspects of what it means to become the channel. I'm speaking a little bit about being the channel. I think that sometimes when I say that phrase, some people think it refers to channeling. But becoming the channel is actually having our bodies feel so vibrant and so strong and in such a self-connected and self-loving relationship with our vessel, right, that the medicine of who we are translates out into the world in a very beautiful and empowered way. So this is different than channeling, right, than just channeling, which is interesting because a lot of women, when they come into their awakening journey, their gifts awaken, right? Like their third eye awakens, their crown chakra wakes up, the heart opens, right? We start to learn about self-love. We start to learn about giving and receiving. For a lot of women, the receiving part is important, right? Because there's a lot of conditioning around giving and doing. So when I talk about becoming the channel, it's about inhabiting the fullness, again, of the feminine vessel. It's about descending more fully into the body. It's about coming into this space of union within ourselves, right? Where we're releasing a lot of the outdated, wounded aspects and really have that upgrade internal sacred union templates come into partnership. Right? We're coming into a space of sovereignty. We're really stepping into the energy of who we are, and through the vessel of who we are, we're taking up big space in the world. And again, this thinking about this union of divine power and primal power, right? Of our divinity and our humanity. So again, a lot of women, when they wake up, they've got a lot of that like intuitive energy, right? Which lends itself to channeling. But in terms of stepping into our power, of allowing the uniqueness of our divinity and our purpose and our medicine to really ground and take up space in the physical, we need to be able to descend fully in our channels and to upgrade our internal foundation into a sovereign foundation so that we can carry forward our work and our freedom beyond the old matrix and the old way of being. Right? So for many of our ancestors, they're coming from a very collapsed energetic state because there was a lot of safety, security, survival happening. And then in particular, when we talk about the feminine and the 5,000 years of the suppression of the feminine, right? Just the essence of the creative life force energy, right? Of living from a place of serving with our gifts, of being in sync with the rhythms of our cycle and of Mother Nature's cycle, right? There's been this great disconnect. And through that, so many of us, and I can certainly relate to this, is such a big part of my journey almost 15 years ago, where my energetic state was collapsed and where I was feeling a degree of disconnect from the beauty and the joy and the power of my female vessel, right? So I've been talking about the like higher energy centers. Hey Sam, welcome. So I've been talking about the higher energy centers, which is often a natural part of like the awakening process, right? But this is the place when it comes to descending into the lower quadrants of our female vessel, where we often have layers of feminine trauma, right? Sexual shame, sexual trauma, right? Just a disconnect from our cycles, from the power of our blood, from our creational power. And that has happened through control and through abuse. And some of it's collective, some of it's ancestral. And these lower energy centers, right, for the female body are dense. They connect us to the physical experience. And so there can be a tendency to want to avoid what it means to start to traverse the womb space, to start to look at the root. So this, if you've been following along a little bit since the beginning, one of the very first calls that I did was Pussy, Feminine Leadership for a New Paradigm. So for me, that's a very powerful symbol. And it also was a powerful symbol because as I was working with my root, right, as I was starting to really heal and connect to the womb space. And so where do I want to take this? But, you know, for many women, especially women who are highly sensitive and often feel they're empathic, oftentimes what I've discovered is it's a disconnect from the primal power, from the ability to fully inhabit our bodies and to take up space with the fullness of our essence through our channel, where we're actually occupying our own energetic space with the boundaries intact to hold us, right? So we're no longer reading and adapting and taking stuff on from people, and there can be a lot of reasons for that, like a trauma response. We hear a lot about that, right? People-pleasing patterns. With the Akashic Records, through my lens, it's a little bit different, even though I've been doing this work for over a decade. And I've been working very deeply with trauma, generational trauma, ancestral trauma, past life trauma, right? And we're all making our way to this, you know, this new paradigm, wherever the new paradigm is, right? But that new paradigm is actually born through us. Like our bodies are a bridge to the new paradigm, right? And then the new paradigm is that foundation that I keep talking about, that inner energetic foundation, so that we're breaking free and clear of the old matrix, of the old way of doing, of the colonial, you know, patriarchal society that was created, but also from generational and ancestral trauma, right? And past life trauma, but generational and ancestral trauma. We start looking a lot more at that as we start to look at what it means to inhabit the female body, right? And as we start to inhabit the female body, right, we're starting to really unlock layers of our creational power, of our creative sexual power, right? And there's such a beautiful awakening and reclamation that gets to happen in that space as we start to drop into the womb space, as we start to drop into yoni. That's really, really very powerful because we're stepping into the fullness of our channel, right? And we're unlocking a new layer of our power. And often as we start to drop into some of those feeling layers, the dense layers, right? And we're clearing and we're healing a lot of those layers within the womb, which are connected to generational trauma, collective feminine wounding, ancestral feminine wounding, past life wounding, right? We're dropping into those layers and we're unlocking a deeper relationship with the beauty and the power and the intricacies of the female body. And so we're doing this journey of descending more fully. We are becoming the channel. And so again, I feel like sometimes becoming the channel is speaking to like the channels out there. I mean, I channeled for a long time, but now I have become the channel. Like it's just, my medicine is just expanded and grounded, and I have a very strong ability and capacity to hold it all. Right. So me as well, you know, I had sexual trauma and I felt like I was very empathic, and I didn't have strong boundaries, but what I had was an adapt and survival response, right? An adapt and survival response. So I had a real ability to like read and feel and intuit, and then I would adapt my energy and take things on for people, and it never fully allowed me to show up fully, right? And that's okay because it's part of the journey, but it never really allowed me to fully occupy my own space as a powerful being. I find womb healing one of the most powerful ways. Absolutely. Yeah, totally. Yes. And I don't know if you've ever done it like with the quantum healing or the Akashic records. I find it's like a whole other layer. And honestly, if you're weaving in your own shamanic practices and ways, I know that the work that you're doing is powerful. So we're talking about dropping into the womb space, and we're talking about dropping into yoni, right? So it's like the soul will not reside in parts of the body where there's trauma, right? It just kind of will linger in some of the upper chakras. So in order to become the channel, we have to allow and support the soul, the essence, to actually root through the whole channel. Right? And as that happens, there's this clearing out, there's this reclamation, there's this sacred honoring, there's this coming home to the beauty of the female body. And as we reach the yoni, right, as we reach vulva, there's collective imprinting, there's trauma, even at the level of yoni. I talked about this in our first transmission, right? And I have programs, bodies of work dedicated to the power of this. It's a deep journey and it takes time. But as our essence fully lands into the power of yoni, right? This reclamation of our creative sexual power, right? If you think about the symbol of yoni, talked about that on the first call, right? And there can be layers and layers of trauma, and it is also connected to the root chakra, right? So it's connected to safety, security, survival, and it's also connected to the suppression of the feminine, but held in the wisdom center of yoni, and held in the wisdom center of yoni. So there's an upgrade that gets to happen through the whole system as our essence starts to drop in fully through the channel. And it's, again, particularly if you inhabit a female vessel, right, we've got layers of trauma to navigate. But as we start to drop into the pleasure center, the creative power center of yoni, right, we're unlocking another layer of a powerful, potent wisdom center, and our essence can fully ground. And there's a ripple effect of that happens at the root, right? The Shakti gets unlocked. And then there's an actual ripple effect that happens as the Shakti unlocks and starts to open, right, through the fullness of the channel, right? It actually starts to upgrade and clear out the chakra system from the bottom down. And so our channel runs, it runs up the 12 dimensions to divine source, and it runs down. And it runs down potentially, right, through the fullness of our channel, and then down to the core of Mother Earth. Just want to see if I can stop my dog from barking. Right, so becoming the channel, and I'm going to open up to the Akashic field here right away and see what wants to come through about this becoming the channel. Right? And as we step into becoming the channel, we unlock our sacred work in the world, right? It is birthed through us to bigger and bolder ways. Our medicine and our essence grounds more fully in the physical experience. The medicine that we're cultivating as we connect to our sacred feminine essence and power starts to shift our relationship with our body, with our relationship to ourself. And also shifts and has this beautiful impact and ripple effect in our relationships, and even throughout the family matrix. Right? Because again, we're talking about the root, the wisdom center of the root, and it's all connected. So becoming the channel, and this is really, and I'm feeling a little bit of a vision quest, right? So this is, identifying who is that powerful version of who you are being called to be, right? That version of you who is bold in her expression, who is taking up big space in the world through her beauty, right? Through her sacred prosperity, through her purpose, through her offers, through her gifts, through her sacred work, through her voice, right? We become this big, bold, beautiful channel that supports our full expression in the world. We're no longer shrinking. We feel very, very supported in the field, in the matrix of who we are through the vessel of our bodies, right? And the truth of who we are and who we are being called to be. And every time we move through another layer of soulful evolution, right, we go deeper into that recalibration, in that like clearing away the old, dropping more fully into the internal foundation, into the channel, right? And we get stronger and our root system grows, just like this big, bold oak tree that we saw the last transmission. And again, talking at the beginning about so many coming from a collapsed energetic state and really starting to step into what it means to take up big, bold, beautiful, vibrant power in the world, right? And where sometimes we get empathy confused with trauma responses that have disconnected us from the beauty and power and intelligence of our body that actually supports us in occupying our own energy and our own space. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open up to the Akashic Records, and I'm also going to share, before I dive in and before I forget, tonight is the last night, the doors close tonight for the Advanced Akashic Women's Guide Certification 2023. So it's a 6-month personal and professional pathway. So if this speaks to you, reach out. We can have an enrollment conversation through Messenger. If it's been catching your eye, we have 2 spots left. We can have a conversation, or I can pop the landing page link over to you. I feel like I'm squinting because all of a sudden it's very bright outside. So just to share that. And it is really walking you through the energetics and the framework of embodied soul level transformation, of really becoming the channel. So I'm going to go ahead and we can drop in, and you can close your eyes if you'd like to. And we're going to presence ourselves. We are going to come home to our bodies and to our breath. Attuning yourself to your full body, tuning into yoni, tuning into womb, tuning into the heart, to the throat. Just noticing what you notice about where you feel embodied in this present moment time, and remembering that this is a journey, right? There's these cycles of evolution that we flow through over and over and over again. All right, so closing our eyes, dropping our chin, I'm going to call down the temples of divine love, light, truth, abundance, wisdom, and power to descend, grow, and expand. Calling in our guides, masters, angels, teachers, goddesses, guardians to be present, for truth and accuracy to be obtained for the highest good of each of us here today and any of us listening to this in the future. Asking this to be a divinely protected space, banishing all negative influences should there be any. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Bringing our focus to the energetic womb space, we're going to go ahead and just see a really beautiful ruby red light starting to fill and circulate through the womb space. And we're just going to bring that ruby red energy to the womb space, seeing it swish and swirl through the womb space, cleansing, clearing, rejuvenating, activating the womb space. Really starting to unlock those those beautiful ancient feminine wisdom codes. Then these are the codes that you carry just naturally in your body, in your cells. It's wisdom that is so natural to you. And we're going to see that light start to move down through the core of the body, down through all the layers of earth and crust and soil and root and rock, right down to the core of Mother Earth. And we're going to see all that beautiful ruby red light descend and grow into the core of Mother Earth. Letting our body weight drop and drop, feeling supported and held by the beauty of Mother Earth, and also letting anything and everything we're ready to transmute to the core of Mother Earth to be transmuted. Bringing our focus to the heart space, we're going to see the magenta rose bloom open. And then from there, we're going to allow the golden grid of the flower of life begin to expand from the heart chakra. We're going to let that light, the radiant divine substance of all of life, begin to permeate and infuse itself within us, all around, and all around us. Letting the Akashic field that is the light continue to grow, expand, and interpermeate with the physical, non-physical reality that exists before us, all around us, and within us. And then we're going to open to receive the light, love, and wisdom of the Akasha in whatever ways we do. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is. So the very first visual that I'm getting is a woman who is kneeling over and looking at the water. It's just like a pond. It's very still, and she's looking at her reflection, and there's an element of feeling dissatisfied with herself. There's an element of feeling dissatisfied with herself. So if you're watching this live, if you're catching the replay, just noticing where you maybe feel an element of dissatisfaction with yourself right now. And there's something really beautiful in that space, right? There's something really beautiful because there's signs and symptoms and signals that on one level, maybe we're searching for a deeper fulfillment. Maybe the old life isn't, that the current life that we have is feeling a little bit old and outdated, right? Maybe there's some really beautiful medicine in that place. And I think the other part of the medicine that's coming through is this medicine of compassion too. And like seeing the gift that we are now and how far we've come, right? Instead of always, or having a pattern of, wanting to grow or go in order to receive satisfaction because maybe something's been like ticked off the to-do list, right? It's like, where can we find beauty in the journey and beauty in the presence of where we are now? And bringing compassion and love and witnessing to the fact that it's okay that there's a desire for things to change too. That's really beautiful. So I'm just going to go ahead and see. So the woman that I'm seeing in the visual, she's taking, she's like disrobing. She's like disrobing, and then she's like dancing around. If I was doing this more in like a group space, then I'd probably put music on. But she's like dancing around this space, around this body of water, like she's disrobed. And then she's like shaking it off because there's this part of this dissatisfaction and this like looking in the pond and seeing this reflection of ourselves, that it's a part of this conditioning. It's a part of like being domesticated. At the very beginning, I was talking about becoming the bridge, right? We become this bridge between our divine power and our primal power, right? And what does that look like and what does that feel like? And the primal is where we return to our wild. It's a reclamation of our wild, creative power and self, right? And we strip away the conditioning and the domestication and the patriarchal lens of how things are supposed to look and be for us to deem worthy of acceptance. We strip that all away and we come into that space of our wild feminine. So imagine yourself, if you want to even get up and dance around and just shake. It's just like animals do in the wild. When they have had something traumatic happen, they have a natural response to shake, right? They shake it out of their system. They shake it out of their, right down to the fascia. So there's this shaking, just shaking it off, shaking the domestication off. This is really fun. We do this in one of my programs called the Fully Awakened Woman. And we actually do this like this feline journey of like activating our primal power. It's reminding me of that. So it's just this like shaking off of the domestication. And there's no rules of who we're supposed to be and what this journey's supposed to look like. There's no rules. The rules that we take on are the rules that we've adapted from society, from others, from projections, from maybe even like the standards of others. So there are no rules. So it's this like shaking off. Okay, so I'm going to tune in next. Yeah, and then all of a sudden she's like standing there and her back is arched, and we're coming into the space too of like, you know, of becoming the channel. To me, it is the internal union, right? Is the inner foundation of sovereignty, and where we become the bridge between our divine power and our primal power, which is very, very potent for our leadership and our ability to hold the higher vision and purpose of who we're being called to be as leaders of the new paradigm in whatever ways that looks for you. So now all of a sudden she's like roaring, like she's like fire coming out of her mouth. There's this fire coming out of her mouth. You know, becoming the channel. Again, we talked about this last transmission. It is this embracing of, yes, our dark, our shadow aspects and our light. It's getting comfortable with the full expression of who we are. And it's getting comfortable with the full spectrum of our emotions, right? And so she is raging. Like there's just this fire coming out of her womb and out of her belly, and she is raging. You know, and even, you know, doing yoni work or yoni art, often there's that layer of like rage that can come through as we connect to yoni, right? To our feminine root. And that's because of the suppression and the control and the limitation. And the suppression of the feminine plays out in our own experience, but it plays out on a planetary level with how we treat Mother Earth, with how we aren't inclusive in our world, with how we don't support our children, and just different aspects of our community and our food supply, and it's all of it, right? And so that rage can start to show up and really start to unshackle and dismantle and start to liberate the feminine. And this is powerful too. I was talking at the beginning about descending into our primal power, descending into the womb space, descending into yoni, right? We're clearing the density, right? The things that we don't always want to feel because it's intense, because we're human and divine. And so our essence starts to drop in to the fullness of our channel. And then we have to feel. We have to feel all those things we haven't been feeling. We have to feel all those things that where we've been like numbing out or avoiding, right? And so the primal power, often like rage, can be a part of that. And so she's raging, like right from the yoni up. I swear to God. Every time I do a Facebook Live, I've got one of my dogs, there's always an issue. So she's raging. So I want you to drop into womb, hands over womb, hand under yoni, like whatever feels really good. I just want you to breathe in and breathe out and tune in. Is there rage there? Are you ready to liberate or unshackle or find freedom in your expression in some way beyond the domestication? Right? In some way beyond the domestication. I'm just going to walk and talk here as I walk my dog around the other side of the patio. Come on. Come on. So, yeah, there you go. Okay. So I'm just going to tune in. Okay, so the other part that's coming through is sisterhood, right? And what happens in the scope of sisterhood? So I'm seeing now this like joining hands and coming into this space of connection and coming into this space of community, right? And this is so powerful too. And there's so many times that I've worked with women on wanting to feel like they belong because they don't feel like they belong. Which again, this actually connects very much to the suppression of the feminine and the root, the feminine root. It's that sense of safety and feeling like that set level of like acceptance within like the tribe, right? Only, and this is a part of deepening into our relationship to ourself. It's like only we need to come into a deep self-loving and accepting relationship with ourselves. We need to be able to find freedom within ourselves and love the vastness and the fullness of who we are, right? We need to be able to come into a very rooted, the feminine root. It's always in the scope of my work, it's the feminine energy center, and then it correlates to an internal aspect of the inner foundation needed. So many women come to me and then they're like, I just want to feel rooted. I just want to feel anchored. Well, great. I just want to be able to show up and just be me, like wherever I am, and that's that coming into like a rooted relationship with ourselves, like really having a very deep sense of belonging because we're so connected to ourselves. We see ourselves. We love ourselves, right? We're very rooted internally, right? And our essence is very rooted through our channels. Like we know who we are. We can take up space with the fullness of who we are. We love and accept ourselves. So there's a freedom to be who we are in community because we're not seeking. We don't need the approval. We're not attached to feeling safe, right? We're safe within ourselves, right? We're comfortable with the fullness of our expression. And so we can begin to show up in these spaces of community and sisterhood. So this goes two ways too, because part of the healing, right, is allowing others to see us too. It's like allowing others to see us in that full expression because we're all human. We're all doing this journey of bridging our humanity and our divinity through the vessel of who we are. Only as those inhabiting a female vessel, we are doing a little bit of a different journey because the body often holds a different memory, a different blueprint, right, for collective wounding and for the suppression of the feminine and where that tends to sit through the landscape, of both our internal foundation and our body foundation. So there's this sense of stepping into sisterhood, but starting to step into sisterhood with this like love and acceptance. This we're talking about this like breaking down, like freeing ourselves from the domestication and stepping into the wild, like the fullness of who we are, the fullness of the emotional spectrum, the shadow aspects of who we are, the light aspects of who we are. And so it's like allowing ourselves to feel seen and held within sisterhood becomes just as important, especially when we're talking about the nature of the feminine, as it is to be able to start to cultivate that deep and rooted or anchored relationship with ourselves. So as I start to see, and you can go ahead and just seeing yourself starting to connect into what I like to call the global sisterhood, which we're all a part of, but sometimes we don't feel like we're a part of it because we're working through the isolation. There's several aspects to the sisterhood wound. We're all a part of the global sisterhood. We're all a part of this beautiful celebration of what it means to be empowered and wild and free and in our sovereignty, right? And that's this part of stepping into our leadership, right? I would call it new paradigm feminine leadership because we're allowing the feminine to wake up, to guide, to find this new and beautiful relationship with our bodies, to step into our creational power, to allow a higher vision to be born through us, right? To come into a space of collaboration and sisterhood, right? And connection to the cycles and the rhythms of nature. And this is really, truly, first and foremost, what we need because it's been so lost for so long. And if we really want to continue to see things shift, we need to place emphasis on the feminine. And that doesn't mean we're taking the masculine out of the equation at all. It means that The feminine gets to lead and resurrect and upgrade and bring this healing balm to the planet. And through that, there is this rebalancing between the feminine and the masculine, and they come into a very, very beautiful internal harmony first and foremost, right? And so as I talk about this sisterhood, and even as I talk about like the new paradigm, right? It's like the new paradigm, again, it is anchored through our bodies, right? The new paradigm anchors within us in this new internal foundation with this new root system where we step into our sovereignty, right? And we're coming and we're descending, and we're allowing our divinity to descend through the fullness of our channels so that we can come into this place of empowered sovereignty, right? That is truly the new paradigm, empowered sovereignty, where we're all coming into this new relationship with ourself and our divinity through our bodies, through this internal foundation, right? So we can feel liberated and free. And it's through that extension of, you know, dropping more fully into both the inner foundation, the body foundation, this bridging of our humanity and our divinity, right? That we even come into a new relationship of purpose and prosperity, right? And how we get to show up in the fullness of who we are, rooted, expanded, connected, vibrant, living a life in alignment with our feminine values, right? And the feminine is, you know, she's all about connection, collaboration, vitality, creativity, intimacy, right? Healthy foods, beautiful, nourished communities. I'm forgetting one. There's one really important one I wanted to say, but now I don't remember it. And spaciousness. Like, that's to me huge, and I live a very spacious life, like very spacious life, where I have time to garden and paint and cook beautiful meals and shop and spend time with my mom and be present in my home, and I still make a fantastic living doing my sacred work. But it required me to come into a new relationship of myself, of my body, of my divinity, to really anchor this new paradigm through my channel so that I could design my life, right, in a way that I knew that it could be, right, where I could flourish and I could feel free, right, and I could serve in my divinity and know that prosperity, right, prosperity is an inevitable part of that. And so there's often, you know, things to be broken down in that journey, right? As we start to really kind of like untangle some of those hard work patterns that's very connected to the collapsed energetic state that I was talking about at the very beginning. That push, go, do, hustle, disconnect, never enough, collapsed energetic state, oftentimes being pulled around in different relationship dynamics, right? That's very like the old paradigm. And we're doing this journey of stepping into our sovereignty, of dropping fully into our bodies. And for those inhabiting a feminine vessel, it's a different kind of journey, right? Because, and I've talked about this a few times, so it feels repetitive to anyone who stayed on long. But I try to catch it because there's new people that pop in and out. Because of the suppression on the planet, and because we start to descend more fully into the womb space, into yoni, there are different kinds of collective imprints. And so this journey into becoming the channel, right, is this taking up space with the fullness of who you are. And so here we want to go and we want a vision, and we want to just take a moment, right, to feel into what and who is that version of you. And so, you know, we've done this journey of like connecting to your medicine. I've talked about evolutionary beauty. We talked kind of like the doorway or the portal, right, to the new paradigm, because the feminine leads in the new paradigm. It has to. We have to place cycles and seasons and earth wisdom. Like, we're so disconnected from the mother, right? Like, we have to, or we won't survive. So let's just take a moment and just tune in to how far we've come. Maybe some of the nuggets, like some of the insights that have really spoke to you over the last few weeks. And you're just noticing what you're noticing in your awareness. And then I want to see you, and then I'm seeing you, or you can see you at the center of this global sisterhood, which we are all a part of. It's often just our wounding that keeps us separate. We're all a part of it. Seeing yourself at the center of the sisterhood with love being like beamed onto you. Just like so much love. Just like every sister, just like wanting you to grow, to thrive, to flourish, just like knows that like the more you do, the more it supports everyone. And as you start to, and actually, so you're seeing this version of you. So I want you to see this version of you. So as you see this version of you, she just starts to like open up and flower and grow and expand. And she's really shining in her evolution, in this version of you that you are being called to be next, right? That you are being called to be next. And just starting to like look at this like powerful version of you, this version of you that's taking up more space, that feels more in her sensual body, that feels more in her sovereign body, that feels more rooted and anchored in her primal power, right? She's taking up space. She's experiencing a new level of freedom and vitality. Who is that woman? What does she look like, right? What is her energy like? This is your higher self. This is the records. It's showing you your highest timeline in terms of your evolution. And I believe that evolution happens in cycles. It's like, it's not a linear thing. It happens in cycles. We don't get to know the like who we are at 90 highest version. It's who we are next, right? And then we do the journey, the transformation, the embodied soul level transformation that anchors us more fully as this version of ourselves, so we can become more embodied, more in our sovereignty, experience greater freedom, more prosperity, right? We start to ground the evolution of more of our purpose in the world, connect that to more of our prosperity, right? And we're doing it by upgrading and coming into a deeper, more powerful relationship with the feminine, upgrading these internal foundations, coming into a new experience of our beauty, of our bodies, right, of our voice, of our truth, of our medicine. And if there's one word to kind of sum up the energy that feels so present with what you're seeing and identifying, right, go ahead and write that word down, right? What does that word will carry meaning, right? It's a clue around what you need to embody, who you need to become, the vibrational state, right, of what it is that you are here to anchor, to more fully ground your evolution, right, through the channel of your body. So she's going to step down. She's like, I just see all this like light beaming onto her. She's going to step down and she's going to walk over to you. And she's just going to take your hands and she's going to send you love and you're going to send her love. You can listen for any messages. You know, and maybe there's like something out of your awareness, like some part that's like being a little bit illuminated, like you never thought of yourself that way. You're just paying attention and you're noticing the clues. And we're just going to thank her and send her love. And she's going to send you love back. And then you're going to go ahead and just pull her into your body. Pulling her into your body. And so it is, and so it is. So this one may stir a lot. Like if you're having some rage or anger or just emotions come up, you know, over the next few days, don't be afraid to scream it out if you can. You know, punch a pillow, stomp your feet, shake it out. And, you know, especially moving through the equinox, we're always looking for just the next the next thing we need to know, the next clue, right? What's ready to open? What's ready to expand? Where are you ready to drop in more fully, right? What just feels next? But oftentimes we need to like shake loose. We need to clear. We need to set the stage to be able to hear, right? So I'm going to thank the guides, guardians, masters, angels, teachers who have been a part of today. There's just something clearing out of the field. There's like a white light at the center of the field, moving around the field, vacuuming up all the anger, right? Any grief, anger, sadness, rage, it's just vacuuming it up. And it's, yeah, so I'm just giving that a sec to clear out. And if you want to, you just keep breathing in to the body, out. And we'll just let that clear. Beautiful. I'm going to thank the guides, guardians, masters, angels, teachers who have been a part of this experience. And then we're going to know that the healing, clearing, intentions, activations are all going to unfold into completion. The door between the worlds is now closed. And if this is a journey you would love to do through the certification, the Advanced Akashic Women's Guide certification, it is all about embodied soul level transformation, stepping into your new paradigm leadership. And if that speaks to you, reach out. We can have a brief enrollment conversation, heart to heart, no pressure. We have 2 spots left. Opening ceremony tomorrow at 4. I shall talk to you all soon. Bye for now.